the Coach Glass podcast. Welcome to the next level. How's it going? Today we have, man, I'm telling you, this is the Mount Rushmore of guests. I can't wait to have this conversation. You know what? Not only can I not wait to have this conversation, I can't wait for you to listen to this conversation, because if I told you the conversations that I have with this gentleman and I told you how impactful it was, and then you go, yeah, that's great, Jay. It must have been a great conversation. No, you don't have no idea. And today you're going to get even a flavor, just a taste of what our conversations are like when the two of us get together and have a bit of a hangout. So, dude, without further ado, I you know what? Your record speaks for itself. If you don't know who Martin Rooney is, then I don't know who you are. All right. So I just want to get right into it. I'm sure through the weaving of conversation, we'll get through all the accolades and everything like that. But dude, so glad to have you on the show. Martin Rooney, how's it going?
Jason, it is going great. Thanks for setting the bar so low right there. I hope we, everyone enjoys it. But I got to be honest, this is the first podcast that I didn't have to sit there and list off a ton of my stuff about myself. And I actually feel good about that, where, hey, everybody listening, you are in for a treat. And Jason is right. Every time we talk, we both get stuff from each other. So remember, guys, you're listening to him because he's great too. But I am excited for what we have to share with everybody today.
Well, you know what? I got a great lesson early on in my career from one of my mentors, Greg Rose, who took me into the TPI family, and it's changed my life since then. But early on, when I first started speaking for him, I used to always feel like I had to let the crowd know, let the audience know who I was, so that they would listen to me and respect me. And he said the best thing you can do when you speak in front of people who do not know who you are is don't tell them who you are. Just do a fantastic job. And if you do a great job, they're going to look you up afterwards. And instead of going up there and spending, and I've seen it ever since then. I've seen it at Perform Better Summits, not so much because they get the best of the best, but I've seen it at NSCA presentation stuff. People go up there and they got 45 minutes to talk, and they spend 25 of it explaining who they are. I'm like, just tell me what you're going to tell me. So that's why I just go up, knock their socks off, and let them go. Who's that guy? What's his name? Hold on a second. So that's what I want everybody to do in this podcast. Look up Martin Rooney if you don't know who the hell we're talking about, but that's insanity that they wouldn't. We have some of the best coaches, most dedicated athletes, coaches, and fitness enthusiasts in the industry, all listening to the show. So Martin, dude, I don't even know where we're going to start. We're going to get to the book.
I say we start with the book.
Let's start with the book.
I sent you the book, and guys, when you write a book, it's a scary thing, right? And Jason knows, having written so much too, because when you put something out there, you're so excited in the process, you're fired up when it gets done, you have one in your hands, and then they start going out. And that's when the real fear begins. And you know why? Because now, what's everybody going to say? What's everybody going to think? Remember, anybody ever wrote a book, they all love their own book. And, but I knew, Jason and I had a call. I sent it to him and I said, man, I'm telling you, when you read this thing, wait till you see. And he and I just talked a while ago, because he did get through it now. And, I couldn't be more excited for what he said. That was one of the best reviews I got. So, I think right now everybody needs to hear about what High 10 is all about.
We got it right here. High 10. And you know what? This is one of those books, like, to be honest, like you said, everybody that writes a book loves their own book. And I've had many people send me their book, and you always want to say something nice about it, because you know how much work they put into it.
Nice cover.
But I had no idea that, because I read your other book, the Warrior book, with all the unbelievable UFC.
And that's totally different.
Totally different, right?
Yeah.
So I was really expecting almost like a how to become a leader, follow along self-improvement book. That's what I was expecting, and in so many ways it is, but it's actually a story. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting like an actual fiction story. But you weaved in so many lessons and so much unbelievable stuff that this book should take a day to read, as far as like how it flows so beautifully. but I'm literally like every 5 pages stopping, and I got my little notepad here and I'm making notes because I'm like, oh shit, that like I need this. My mentorees need this. Like and then I was like, I'll just send them the book. So just so you know, this is going to be my most gifted book for the next couple of years for sure.
Yes. Well, hey, for anybody listening, just to hear what it's about. So what Jason was referring to as my original books, they were exercise books and fitness books. But I started a handful of years ago talking about culture and coaching. So I really dove into, wait a minute, before we can ever worry about the exercises, well, if somebody can't get you to do it or get you to be interested in it, then it might not have as much value. And then it was like, okay, once you can get somebody to do that, you have to create the right environment to make sure that your coaching will work. And I was teaching courses, and after every course, somebody would come up to me and they'd say, man, you got to write a book about coaching, or you got to write a book about culture. And if anything, I didn't want to do it. I don't believe that coaching or culture is something you can write in a textbook and or if this, then that kind of thing, like, oh, if they do this, do that. But what I love doing is telling stories. And I said, well, why don't I take a crack at really writing a fictional story, but putting all the stories within the story? And the first book, I don't even know if you know, High 10 is a sequel. So there was Coach to Coach, which came out right before the pandemic happened. And that did so well that they asked me to write the sequel, High 10. And man, it was an arduous process. I wish I could say, wow, it was nothing but fun. It was 8-hour days, locked away, ripping my hair out, trying to get it right, or to put it all together, to storyboard, character development. But I'll tell you what, I couldn't be more proud of it. And again, when people like yourself and, so many of our other friends that we talked about that are loving it, I know it hit the mark. And now the biggest job is to get it out there, and have people check it out.
Well, I'm actually looking forward to calling Alwyn Cosgrove and Todd Durkin and all the other guys that I know are some of your biggest cheerleaders. I'm looking forward to talking to them without you there. And just talk about how great a book it is. And that's the true essence of a great book, is when people are going to talk about your book, not just to you, but to the other people that they know will appreciate it. One of the things that I'd say in this is that, and everybody's going to be like, oh, is this just going to be let's talk about we're going to talk about other things as well. But the lessons that we learned in here is what I really want to talk about today, because what I found was in your characters in the book, I could hear your voice. And sometimes I was like, oh, so when Martin, because I was picturing you writing this, I was going, oh, Martin sees himself as this character and his voice is coming through that character. But then all of a sudden I'm like, but then there's a vulnerable aspect of the other characters. And I'm like, oh, there's probably some elements where Martin feels some of those anxieties or insecurities in some of his aspects of his business, and a mentor helped him through that. So I'm really seeing, like, I saw you in every character. So I have to ask the question, is that on purpose, or is that just because you wrote it?
No, let's put it this way. One thing that I will say, and a piece of advice for everybody listening, is don't talk about stuff you don't know, right? Like people are going to figure it out. It'll be really easy. So I don't speak on topics. I'm not, I don't consider myself having spent a couple decades studying, and I would never write about topics either. So everything in both of the books really happened. So they are all based on real stuff. They're based on either myself or a composite of people and mentors and people that affected my life. And what I did, though, was weave it into a story that would be entertaining versus telling my story. And that's I don't know, it's an interesting thing because, the book it's dialogues, it's conversations. That was very difficult to put together like that and still get everything across. But for everybody listening, it's not a theory book. It's a reality book. All those things really happened. They're all things that really worked. But definitely, like Jason just said, I think the hardest part was being vulnerable, because most of it is me admitting my mistakes. Like a lot of it is all the horrible things that happened, whether it was relationships, business, sport, all the things that I did wrong, and the catastrophes that taught me the lessons that are in there, they've now come back to finally have value, right? And but yeah, without a doubt, I am within many of the characters, or they are all based off real people, and those real people know who they are because they've read the books too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to be that guy who watches Empire Strikes Back and then go, "Oh, this is great," and then they go, "Oh, but you missed Star Wars." The Star Wars, like this is the second one. I'm like, "No, but this is really good," and they're like,
Now,
"Yeah, you got to watch the first one."
I wrote it, and this was also by the publishing house. They like the idea of sequels, but you have to write them that they could stand alone without having had to read it. So for anybody listening, you could start with either. You could read just one and not the other, and you're not missing a thing. And but when you see how they all come together, it's even cooler. And speaking of that, which I've never said before, I took the idea of Star Wars. So the series that I'm doing, it is a trilogy.
I was going to say, there's got to be a trilogy involved here.
And the book that I haven't done yet is the one that happens before both the others. So it's actually like the prequel. To the other two. Yeah. And I did it in an order because I knew there were lots of coaches out there. People would want the coaching book. Culture, I know people are interested, but if they were more familiar with the first stuff, they're going to like that more. But when you see what the third one is about, I got to have a fan base for the first two before they go for that one. So So I actually took a page out of Lucas's book, which, remember, he took a page out of Joseph Campbell's book and The Hero's Journey. And if you've ever read stuff like The Power of Myth or the Hero with 1,000 Faces, Star Wars was this saga. He just happened to put it with the hero's journey within a space time travel thing. But really, those books did the same thing too, because we love that kind of story.
Well, I love you did something really unique in this book, and I want it to be a lesson to everybody listening, because in this podcast, I have like any podcast, there's a large variety of people who listen. Some of them are athletes, some of them are coaches, some of them are entrepreneurs, some of them are fitness enthusiasts. And I always feel like I want to speak to everybody, but by speaking to everybody, you're not really speaking to anybody. Yeah. So in your book, you actually touch on like business, like an entrepreneur starting a business and a CEO. That character is fantastic, but the lessons that you learned through the business actually affect every aspect of all those people I just discussed. But you also talk directly about the coach and a coach to coach relationship. And then you also talk about the relationship between the business owner and his wife. And that's what everybody can, have some, no matter what relationship you're in, you're going to be able to really feel how you find balance when you're striving to be the best in the world and still be the best, partner to whoever you happen to be with. So let me start with that one first, because I think that one's that's probably the one that maybe other interviews that you've done maybe don't go near. Maybe they have, I don't know. But I can tell you myself, traveling the world like we do and lecturing around the world and really being so passionate about what we do with our athletes, so passionate about what we do with our business, it can be overwhelming and take up 110% of your time. But you also have somebody with you that you want to give 100% of your time to as well. And finding that balance, it took me a little bit of a challenge. It was a challenge for me as well. And I'll just leave you with this before you tell your story, because it's definitely woven into that book. It wasn't until I sat down with my wife at the start of the year and we looked at a year schedule. At the time, I was with Team Canada as a strength coach for the national team. And then I had TPI seminars. Then I was just developing my own seminar series. And then I had my own local business that I was running, a golf academy. And all of that, it was overwhelming. And it wasn't until the two of us sat down, we looked at a calendar of the year, and I wrote down all my obligations. And then I said to her, what are we capable of achieving this year? You tell me, if we only can do one of these, then let's pick one. If we can do all of them, then as a team, we got to find a strategy to do this. And it wasn't until we got involved with the overall approach to how much can we handle as a family. That's the first time that we started having success balancing the marriage and being a successful entrepreneur.
Well, it's funny you say it. And, we've talked about this, but I just had a little breakthrough there where you're using that word balancing. And a lot of people ask me that. They say, Martin, how do you do it? You have 4 daughters, which one of them, hey, I'm wearing this hat, guys, because my daughter we're leaving for Notre Dame on Tuesday.
Congratulations.
She's on the track team there. And then the businesses, but also I'm coaching. I'm the, a high school track coach. You try to write, you try to speak, and people ask me, they say, how do you do it, Martin? How do you balance it? And you know what's funny? For anybody listening, fitness minded for sure. Oh, and my background, I'm also a physical therapist. So balance was a big thing that you started with in school. And you know what balance is? Balance is really constantly being off balance. So whenever you are balancing, you are falling off balance and then bringing yourself back on balance at all times. That's what a balancing act is. And life is a giant balancing act. And here's the thing. You're never doing it perfect. If you're focusing too much on the business, there isn't enough time for the family. If you're focusing too much on the family, there's not enough time for the business. If you're trying to focus on your own fitness and everything else or your own nutrition, something else is falling off the plate. And hold
up there, Martin. Hold up one second. I'm just going to throw this. I'm going to throw this nugget in there because I always say to my clients and my coaches that I'm, trying to bring up through the system, you learn your best when you're on the verge of failure. When you are on the verge of falling, when you're balanced, let's say you're doing the balances, the same example, when you're on the verge of failure, that's when the best lessons occur. But you want to have a challenge that is on the verge of failure, but you're seeing more successes than failures. So what you're talking about on this balance, it's that yin yang of life. And as soon as you think that everything's going right, that's when the shit hits the fan. And you have to celebrate both sides of that. You can't just go, oh, woe is me. I'm not having the best day ever. What the hell? Yesterday was great and today is horrible. It's like, no, celebrate the fact that today's a bad day because you've seen the other side of that yin yang. And now we got to find that middle ground. We're always trying to manipulate it. So
yeah, and sometimes you got to run hard towards the business. I guess what I'm trying to say is, imagine you're on this tightrope of life. Hey, you're starting to lean this way, but you got to do it. You got to do that work. You have to get it done. But hey, don't forget the other stuff. So here would be my answer to that question: how I always balance. I say I don't, but here's a great one that people really like. But I make the most important thing the most important thing. Right. So I make the most important thing the most important thing. And hey, for everybody listening, Jason knows this. You may be listening to this podcast, but we're shooting it a little bit late. I'm never usually late, but why? Because my dad is having a big health issue. I had to be there. I'm on that side of the tightrope, but then bring it back. But now when I'm right here, the most important thing in the world to me is this podcast right now. And we're going to rock. We're going to deliver energy. I'm not going to let anything affect that. Not my family, not my workouts, not my business. But when it's time to be with my family, I'm with them. When it's time to be on that business, I'm on that. And if I were to say, yeah, here'd be a big one. I'm having a breakthrough here. Because remember, the questions you ask determine your life because that's the answers you seek. He just asked a great question about balance. And here would be my answer. I don't say balance, I say focus. So whatever it is I'm doing, I'm focused on that right then. But you gotta make sure you're still snapping back to the other things that you need to focus on sometimes. Right. So
going back to my analogy of trying to find that fine line of failure. If you want to push yourself as an individual and improve yourself, a lot of people, they're walking on such a wide plank that they never lose balance, which means they're not challenging themselves, like pushing too hard on the work side or pushing too hard on the relationship side, whatever it happens to be. And they just kind of just sit on a log in the middle. Well, that ain't living. So what you're talking about right here is you're just about to take your daughter, which this is such like when you look at the tier of life, you're looking at your daughter going to express her greatness at the highest level. And her dream is coming true of going to Notre Dame. And you're celebrating that just as much as your dad is starting to experience failure of his physical body in some ways. And you're caught in the middle of this like celebration and then worry but that's what life is. Or you could just do this. You could just medicate yourself and just walk away from the whole thing and just go, I'm out. Yeah. And just focus on the positive.
But and I love it. And that's the thing. You see how it's like you're stretching in all these directions but hey, back to the stuff for everybody listening. Yeah. Like my daughter though, because you said something that's almost like a glaze over. But hey, she had her dream come true. I want everybody to know, guys, but it was the last 10 years of really, really hard work to make that dream come true for that kid, with me helping to at least be a guide or play a role in it. And yeah, we leave on Tuesday for 5 or 6 days. And you know what? I'm going to be 100% focused on that, and it's, yeah. So if anybody ever meets me and asks me about balance, you at least know my answer now, that I wish I could say, oh, I got it all figured out. It's easy. You just do this and this, and here's your schedule all day, and it's a piece of cake. But yeah, I like Jason's thing. It's like, hey, getting that book done that's sitting behind him, man, that was a lot of 8-hour days for months and months and months and months. And then when they handed it back all read, I had to edit it for months and months and months and months. And during that time, I wasn't balancing as well with other things as I could, but I did that because the pandemic shut down my travel and all the other things I could have been doing. So maybe that could lead us to a great thing right now is, hey, everybody. And yeah, definitely. I don't know where you are or what country. I know every country is having so many unique challenges, or each individual state even, but you know what? There's still something you could be doing. There's some way that you can express your greatness and the world will find you. And I decided for it to be through a book because I couldn't be out there speaking. So I told stories in a different way.
But that's what people need to understand, is that when we talk about compartmentalization means that when you focus on one thing, there's a sacrifice to something else in your life. And for me, when I tried to be everything to everybody in my life, that's when I was very ineffective. My wife would always say to me, like, are you still working? And it'd be 8 o'clock at night. And I still have my work shirt on, which might be this t-shirt, who knows, but she knows that I'm in work mode, and she could see me kind of watching TV with her or spending quality time with her. And I'm just kind of like off in the distance. And she was like, are you like still working?
And here or what?
Yeah. And so what I did was this, I got into a habit of, I actually changed my clothes when I'm done with the day. So even if at home during COVID, when most of you are wearing pajamas every day, I would get dressed for work in my work clothes, like as if I'm going to go train or as if I'm going to go entertain or whatever I'm going to do. And then as soon as I'm like, it's 4 o'clock, I close the computer, I go into the bedroom, change my clothes, and then come back out as a different person. And then she knows that line has been drawn. And it sounds silly to some people, but I really feel like change of clothes and changing my environment, like getting out of my office, and then it does change my mindset, and it allows me to be present. Like you did. You were not dressed like this all day. Martin Rooney does not walk around the streets of Tennessee in this outfit.
In my polos.
Yeah. But as soon as you got home, you're like, I'm going on the podcast. You enter that room with the yellow wall, and you throw on that TFW shirt, man. You are now in this moment.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think what we're talking about there, which could be a great thing, is, hey, what everybody has to do listening to this, and what the pandemic really hit us with, were our habits, right? And our behaviors. Here's one that was one of the toughest ones for me. And I'll be honest, I have never enjoyed working out in my own home. So I like to go to a gym. I want to go to the gym, or my gym, we have a Training for Warriors here and a Parisi's here, that I want to be there. That's where I work out. And then when I come home, I don't. And one of the toughest things was when we were locked down, hey, we got to work out here. And it was the same thing for my daughter and everything else, that when we couldn't go to the track, we're running in the street, but I'll tell you, habits are so powerful, because now I after doing something for a period of time, now that's what I'm used to. And now this is what I'll work out here. And I haven't been, even though the gym has kind of reopened, but it's back and forth. I'm still kind of training in the house, and that shows the power of the habits you have. It's, how you eat, right? You'll just walk up, grab stuff out of the cupboards, and there's just ways that if you make sure you're doing the right stuff, you're going to get things done. And I don't know. Yeah, I guess the thing I'm trying to bring up is, hey, everybody, this was an opportunity to examine your habits and put some good ones in there too. And if you do that, just like I said before about the questions you ask, hey, your habits will determine your future too. And not everybody always wants to hear that.
Well, here's an example of exactly what you just said. I don't like training in my gym, my actual facility, because I'm thinking about work. Like I'm
Yeah.
literally like, I could probably go and do this. I notice like the corner of the gym needs to be cleaned, or this piece of equipment needs replacing. Like I don't like that environment. And so I built a gym at home where I can train. But here's the deal. When COVID hit and everything shut down, the one thing I could train anywhere I want, but the thing that I couldn't do is coach.
Yeah.
And so what I was like itching, and my wife was like, you need to do something. Like you've got all this energy and you're training yourself, but you need that interaction. So what I did was I took a note from Dan John. I remember him saying one day that he has this like kind of weightlifting club in his neighborhood, in his community.
Yeah, garage,
yeah. And what he does is he just invites whoever he's going to go work out. He just invites whoever wants to come, can come and join me. Doesn't charge them. It's just, if you want to be a part of this, you're welcome to it. And I have 8 like, high school aged kids that are just going off to college and about to transition to that. And they all live on our street. They're all athletes. And so what I did was I was like, you know what? This will encourage me to train, and I get to be a coach. So what I did was I sent a message to all of them and I said, Fridays at 4, every Friday, I'm just going to be working out in the gym in my garage. And if you guys want to come, you're welcome to it. Well, this thing exploded into, I was building obstacle courses on my lawn, the front street. We were putting cones to block off cars. We had like these crazy workouts, and everybody showed up every single week. And so one of the neighbors, like this isn't obviously why I did it, but they actually contacted the news, the local news, and said, this guy's like training all our kids in our neighborhood. And he's becoming a community leader. And I want to get back to that in the book, not for the purpose of money, not for the purpose of fame. We never filmed it. We never shared it. We were just literally trying to help these kids. And the the news people, they awarded me with the community leader of the week, which does, whatever that means.
Yeah,
but it was just a recognition that you're making a difference during COVID to a community. And I was very proud of that. Yeah.
Well, and some of the things I heard there, and this is important again for everybody, is I heard something, I'm itching to coach. Yeah. And what did it show you? See, I call the pandemic also a great revealer. It revealed what your passions, not just your habits, it revealed your passions. It revealed things you were doing right, things you weren't doing right. Definitely, we'll talk in a minute. If you run a business or own a business, it revealed the culture you have. So for instance, if all your members or people were all gone, minute number 1 of the pandemic, you probably didn't have a good culture going into the pandemic. But
it's all in here, folks. It's all in here.
Yeah. But definitely what it revealed, there are silver linings, but look what you said. It revealed you wanted to be a coach, and you don't coach for money. You coach because you love it. And for everybody listening, guys, I think Jason and I are very lucky. Like, there might be aspects of our jobs we don't like, but we, for the most part, are doing what we want to be doing and what we were born to be doing. And guys, the money will come. But most people, unfortunately, work for money to go do something they like sometimes. And I would caution everybody that, especially with the pandemic, it's time to really question it. So here would be a big line. This is a big knowledge bomb line. Don't spend your time doing something you don't love, right? If this taught us anything, don't, when it was all taken away, did you spend time on stuff you didn't love? No, you probably were doing things you either enjoyed or wanted to spend your time on. Well, here would be my challenge. Figure out how to get paid for those. Now, I'm not saying that means watching Netflix shows and you're now a reviewer of Netflix, but I mean an actual job, like you said, a service that provides something amazing to the world. Because here's a big breakthrough too. This is a biggie. Your income will be directly related to the problems you solve and the number of people you serve. Like, that's a biggie. Like, I'm having a breakthrough there. So if there is a problem out there, right? And, if it's fitness and it's obesity or it's, health, whatever it is, and you serve tons of people because you love it, man, you're going to be the most successful person you know. But
well, you make that very clear in the book, that culture is not something like you check off a list of things that you've done. Like, oh, I've created culture. So you check it off and now you just leave it. Culture is something that you're constantly working on, and not just working on it. Like, that's what the book does. It gives you the direction. it gives you like, here are some parameters that you can work inside. And if you do the diligent work and really, really look into some of those areas of your business that maybe are being neglected, and you call them the white spaces, some of them are being neglected and some of them are just absolutely like, they are the meat and potatoes of what you do and you're totally unaware of it. It's the reason why people keep coming back to your business and you have no idea that they just keep showing up and they all want the same thing. It's like, well, and then you advertise the wrong thing. Culture is something that you have to work. And if you're the leader in your group and you don't know like how you're developing culture, then you need that, I don't know, what would you call it? The compass. And in your book provides that.
It's all in there. And I'll be as bold to say, watch this, because I'll have to show it to you after. The entire framework. So there were dozens of whiteboard sessions, not just for the character development, the stories and the chapters, but there was an initial roadmap. Like I had to define, well, what does culture mean to me? And what does it look like? And once I saw this roadmap, everything is written from that. So really the book is a roadmap. It's a guidebook, but it's for anybody. So you will look at it totally different than I will, because our businesses they're different in some areas, but it's valuable and useful for everybody. And that's the big trick, and exactly what you were describing there. But also that culture is not a destination. It's a never-ending journey. And how I describe it, I think probably in the book, is it's like, remember I said it's like having a baby. A lot of people call their business their baby, right? And well, a baby requires constant nurturing. A baby is going to continue to evolve and grow. It's an organism that needs constant attention and always, helping it along on that balancing act. And that's what culture is. And I'll tell you what, everybody that's read it has said, oh my gosh, now that I'm really looking at it through this cultural lens, man, culture is everywhere. And either they say I got lucky and we have a good one, or I was never watching and we have a bad one. But one big line on it that's right on the inside cover, it's so powerful, is, hey guys, don't think you either have or don't have a culture. You have one. If there's more than 2 people involved with what you do, you have a culture in your house, in your business, on a team, whatever.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah. And here's the warning. Beware. If you don't design your culture, everybody else is going to, and it may not end up what you want. So, and that's the crazy part, right? Like most people, when they start their business, they start with a name, a logo, an ego, an idea, and they never think once, what is this business? Or, hey, when people get married, did you say, hey, here is how this will be the guiding principles of our family, our values, our mission. Here's how it'll look to everyone else and interact with everyone else. No one ever thinks at that level. And that's why most of us fail. But if we just asked those questions and then acted in accordance with the culture we wanted and nip in the bud the things that we don't, man, your business team, everything will be perfect. And what's really weird is that's why I made it a sports and a business book is, see, sports teams, for some part, they get it. They'll have a slogan. Here's our mantra. Here's the 3 things we stand for. We're going to rock with this. You see that a lot. But businesses, man, you don't see that at all. And so it was trying to have that dichotomy to work them both together, but to show that they're both the same, and a family too. And it's all in the book. But it's kind of funny because I haven't talked about it a lot. The book did just come out a few weeks ago. So it's almost like now I'm seeing even what I was just writing all the stories. Now I'm seeing, like it does do all those things. It's funny.
Well, let's do a little live, and I should have probably prepared you for this, but let's do a little live, real life application of your book to something that a lot of people will know. Perform Better is a sponsor of this podcast, and most of the people that are listening to this, well, I hope that they've been to a Perform Better summit at some point. But Perform Better is not like just a equipment supplier. When I think of Perform Better, I think of like Chris Poyer's face smiling, Aaron, and everybody involved, like the whole team.
Yeah,
everybody's
Rob,
happy.
Carlos, Vin, and everybody's pumped up.
They absolutely love what they do, and they show up, and from seminar to seminar, from conference to conference, they come with this energy, and that's not by accident. That is a culture. So can we apply can you walk through, and like I said, I should have prepared you for this. Can you walk through your 3 Bs? And maybe we can relate it to, maybe Chris doesn't even know that he accidentally checked off all the boxes, but he certainly has. Tell us about the 3 Bs that are in the book. If you don't want to ruin the book, I'm good with that too, but let's talk about the 3 Bs because it's so valuable. And maybe we can apply it to some of the great things that Chris does with his team.
Absolutely. Well, the first part that I'll tell everybody is, hey, if you want to write a book, not only should you have experienced a lot of stuff, you should also read a lot of books. So, I've read thousands of books before I ever dared to write one. And why I'm saying that is, it's not like, oh, I just came up with this stuff. I've been studying culture for a long time. And same thing with, but before that, it might've been fitness. Before that, it was anatomy, whatever it is, I love to deep dive. And in that deep dive, I really discovered that although so many books say things in a different way, I try to look for the common denominators, right? How do you distill it down and crystallize it to a simple definition? And I remember when I had the big breakthrough and I'd be taking notes and all this stuff. And then I really realized, wow, I get what culture is now. Culture is simply, right? It's simply the behaviors of your beings because of the things that they believe, right? Like, so I just said that like, guys, that was took me 10 years to figure out. I said it really quick.
Okay. Wait. No, this is really important, Martin. And I'm not going to distract you, but I talk about this on the podcast. I call it setup punch. In comedy, you need to take a funny concept that is like 6 paragraphs long and condense it into one setup and punch sentence. And if you can do that, that is gold. And you can run with that for 10 years. But if you can't describe something in a compact, like decisive way that describes exactly what your thoughts are, then you got nothing. So you just said almost the whole book about culture in
right
one
there.
sentence, and that's gold.
Well, and here's what it was. So I kept seeing it was people, right? So it's your people. So here's a big breakthrough for everybody. You can't have culture by yourself.
No.
Like if it's just you, there is no culture. You got to have at least 2 people. Right?
You can have a bacterial culture, but you can't have a culture.
Yeah. And if you want to have 10 people, 100, 1,000, there's a culture that develops within those networks. So it's people. Then I realized, okay, well, it's how those people interact with each other. It's how those people interact with people outside of the culture. Those are their behaviors. And then it was like, well, why do those interactions happen? Why are some people nasty? Why are some people nice? Why are some people service oriented? Why are some people aren't? And that was what they believe, right? Their thoughts. So what's interesting is I was playing with it. I'm like, people, thoughts, behaviors, And then I had like behaviors and beliefs, like what they believe. And then I was like, oh man, I need a B for people. Like it would be really cool to have 3 Bs. It would really be cool. And then I was like, beings, like they're all beings, right? Like those are your beings. And that is the cornerstone of the entire book it's your beings, it's your people, right? And then the ways that they behave in accordance to what you or the culture believes, right?
Okay, so let's do this. So we can go for performance. Chris Poirier and his team, for example, and I'm just using that because people are going to know them.
No, and well, hey, let's even take a step back, guys. Perform Better sells equipment. They sell medicine balls and weight racks and different things. And hey, Jason and I have been involved with Perform Better for, I've been with them for over 16 years. Yep. And hey, shout out to the Perform Better team, because I would not be where I am and I wouldn't be on this conversation right now without them. Right.
Yep.
And that speaks something to their culture, because they're always out there to help promote, guys like us to help us. But here's the thing. Can you imagine you sell equipment? Like, imagine if I told you, hey, I want you to create this incredible culture around it that's magnetic and contagious, that people like it and being part of it so much that they'll choose to purchase equipment from us instead of equipment from somebody else. Because, guys, there's a lot of other companies that probably sell things that are very similar.
Right.
So I just wanted to say that first to underlie how important culture, because what are those events that everybody goes to? Those are culture building events.
Absolutely.
It's when those 3 Bs get you to feel part of another B. Ready? Something bigger. We just made it something big right there. It's like, now it's a 4B.
You got
it's
4Bs
now. So
but it starts with the first one, which is beings.
Yep.
And so to have a team like they do, you have to choose the right beings and then cultivate the qualities that they have, like really nourish what they currently have as a strength and turn it into something that's unbelievable. I literally, when I think of Perform Better, all I think about is all the faces in the team, and I think of them all smiling. Like that's what I picture. I don't picture I don't picture Indian clubs or kettlebells. I picture the faces of the staff when I go to a conference.
Yep, and it's how they get along. Just polite there, like, see, because that's the thing. So first you got your beings. Now, for everybody listening, let's say it's your company. Hey, did you really pay attention to the people that you added to it? Or were you in a bind? Oh man, I need to hire somebody quick. I don't have anybody. I need somebody with a pulse. And now all of a sudden you brought somebody in and they're not, right off the bat, they're not a person that matches the culture that you want to instill. And immediately, guys, that is probably one of the biggest mistakes that happens with most businesses. And unfortunately, that's something that goes again back to the leader defining who can be part of it, and also defining the behaviors that you will tolerate. And a lot of times people have not created the belief system for that company or the mission statement that everybody really bleeds it and understands it, so that the culture can be in place. And again, it's funny because I'm so crystal clear on it now and I can see it. And it's great how we're looking at the example for that. But again, Perform Better has chosen great people. So here's the thing. If you're a jerk, you're not going to work there. No. Or you're definitely not going to work there for long. You're going to get weeded out quick, right? So that would be the first one covering that. Now, behaviors. I guarantee you got to be polite. You got to, but you got to produce. You got to cultivate your relationships with your clientele. I know that's what they do. So these are probably the behaviors that they really like most. And then you know what? And here's the thing. You got to believe in the organization. You got to believe in the equipment. You got to believe in the quality of what they do. That starts
with leadership.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like picture this. How many times have we, this is probably calling people out, but how many times have you been to a Perform Better Summit and you hear, oh my God, so-and-so is so hungover because you should have seen what they did last night, and here's some photos. And then you go and see that staff member and they've compartmentalized their life. They're hungover. They had the greatest night ever at the social, but they showed up the next day because they've been told, look, you can do whatever you want, enjoy yourself, have so much fun, but you got to be 100% tomorrow. And they show up, and that's like part of the energy is like, nobody's not going to show. Like there's zero no-shows.
Well, and
everybody shows up.
And here's another one I would say, because if they're watching this, they're going to laugh at that. Well, what I would also say for everybody listening and why you can get products through them is their service. That's what they pride themselves on. It's like, hey, something breaks, you're getting another one. Hey, we're going to be on the phone with you immediately. So here would be a cool one. You ready? And I think I say it in the book, and this is important for anybody that runs a fitness business. If you're listening, you should not be trying to create clients or memberships. You should be trying to create relationships. And what Perform Better does so great, and you said it, you know it. Like I'll tell you what, I miss so much all the events because it's been such a big part of my life for the last decade and a half, 10 or 15 weekends a year, and that got stripped for the last 2. I'm jonesing for those events, but because they have created such a relationship with me, and I've created such a relationship with all those people, and that is what culture and business is all about. So regardless of what business you're in, what is the culture that you've created and what are the relations around it that you're building, that regardless of what your trade is, you're going to have a successful business. And again, I'll come full circle. If your business was super challenged during the pandemic, you probably didn't have a very good culture going, right? But if you had an incredible culture going in, I guarantee that you were able to much better withstand the challenge than if your culture was lousy going in, right? And that's a guarantee, and it's something that I saw within my Training for Warriors organization. That, man, not only did many, just kind of quote unquote survive, but they were thriving as a result of all the relationships that they had built that were going to support them regardless if they were open or not. And that, man, was a huge eye opener about culture and how important it was. I was always preaching it, but man, you didn't really see the power of it until we had challenges like this, which were unprecedented.
Well, if you think about like gyms, really, gyms are basically a space with equipment in it. And then you hire staff to lead people through their workouts and take them through it. But look, we're not special in any way. A box with equipment in it and then someone that shows them how to do it, that's what we call a gym. What makes the difference between successful gyms and unsuccessful gyms is the culture. Not only do the staff buy into the culture, but the clients, the customers, the most important people that you have, and you say it so well in the book, that those people show up and they believe in your mission as much as you do. And the only way you can have people buy in and believe in your mission is if you tell them what your beliefs are. And you have to live your beliefs. You have to like abide by your beliefs, and you have to lead by example. And if you do that, then people they're going to go through a brick wall for you. And the people that didn't have success over COVID were people that didn't have that culture. The people that went to that gym had no idea the purpose behind it and what the gym owner and the trainers believed in. So they were just like, oh, you're closed. Oh, well, if you were truly about helping other people, you would have found a way to help these people without opening the doors.
Yeah. And we focused not only a ton on that, but man, you just said so many things that, I want to hit some people with that, one of the biggest revealers, how we said about the revealers, it's kind of interesting because I can remember a lot of gym owners. I would always be at a lot of seminars and there became this trend where it was almost like, hey, I just want to be a businessman now. I want to have my gym, but I never want to be there. I want to be able to put my feet up on Instagram, take a picture as if I've made it. And I can remember thinking, well, then this person doesn't like a coach or like the job that they're in. Mm. And they definitely don't love the people that are supposed to be using their business. And the thing that was the greatest revealer for me was, holy cow, do you know who became the most important people in the whole wide world when all the gyms got shut down? It was all their members. It was all those relationships, because if they stopped paying, you have no more income. And it was like, holy cow. In many cases, these were the people that were being taken for granted the most. But in the special businesses where those people, like you said, and using a strong word, the people that felt loved by those businesses, the people that were like, I can't live without this place and I'm going to continue to support it, even if the doors aren't open, those are the ones that not only survived, but you know what it revealed? You really did love fitness and you loved what you were doing. And then that becomes easy to see. But now, as we move forward, we got to always remember those lessons. So if you were one of you go in like, oh, this person drives me nuts or this person's killing me, they know you think that too. Yeah. And the minute that the doors got shut, they were the ones calling you first saying, can I freeze my membership? Yeah. Right. And I know how stressful that was for people, but you know what? That's a lagging indicator of a job not well done. Right. And we talk about that in the book a lot. So it's almost like I'm having a breakthrough again, because for everybody listening, when I wrote the book, it was right at the start of this, like when it all went down. And it's funny, like, in there, I write about remote, the challenges with having remote employees. And then I wrote about just what we were talking about, the importance of customers. None of that would have came out if this had not happened. You know what I mean? Because it was so fresh in the moment when I wrote it, but it's almost the real truths of a business and how culture affects that. So yeah, it's man.
Well, I'll tell you what, in my mentorship, I mentor coaches, business owners, same as you. I mean, very similar to what you do for your TFW people. But the biggest part of my mentorship is really about kind of enlightening the person on what currencies they want to be paid in for the wonderful services that they provide, be it their customer or their staff or whatever it happens to be. And one of the lessons that I learned was my gym, and this shocks a lot of people, my gym is 400 square feet. And people go, Jay, but I thought you were really successful. And I'm like, oh, I am, but I do it in 400 square feet. And they go, well, that's not success. That's a tiny gym. And I go, but here's the deal. I coach in that space and I coach because I know that that's where I get my joy. I could have 7 employees under me in a massive space, and I will no longer coach. I will now manage. And I know right from the start that I wanted to be a coach, and I wanted to work with my young juniors, the high school age kids that are so vulnerable and so they need some mentoring. And I decided that that was going to be my focus. And maybe I won't make that $1 million from having all the staff, but I'm going to be boots on the ground. My hands are sweaty in the gym, making a difference. Now, I'm not saying that's for everybody. Some people will have the currencies of growth and maybe mentoring staff and all those wonderful things. But I knew for myself to have the freedom to go and do speaking engagements, to go work on the PGA Tour with my athletes and actually be there and be present for them, and be able to come home and run my business without having to worry about it while I'm on the road. I knew I had to keep things small, tight, and just do what I want to do, which is coach. So my point of that is that for the gym owner who wants to, just build a gym and put their feet up, like you really have to do that deep dive before you go down that rabbit hole and find out really what currencies do you want to be paid in for this wonderful work that you're doing as a coach.
Well, hey, you remember Good Will Hunting, right?
Absolutely. How do you like them apples?
Watch this. I'm gonna because that was almost like a therapy session there. I heard a little bit of that, so I'm going to tell you right now. You ready, Jason? It's okay. It's okay that your place is 400 square feet. Now you're supposed to say, you're supposed to say, I know. I know.
I know.
And I'd be like, no, it's okay. We would go back and forth until you freak out. But here's what I'm saying. It was almost as if you had to justify that. No, you're the ultimate success. You know why? Because you're doing what you want to be doing. So I want everybody to hear this right now, because it is important. Because of social media and everything that's happened, a line I've used a lot lately is comparison is the thief of joy. Right? Like, oh, wait, my gym has to be bigger? Who says? See, because you ready? You want to know when you're a true success? When you don't want to be somewhere, one or someplace else, right? Like, so, and that's the thing. Same deal. Dude, I wake up every day with a great conscience because I feel great because I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing. And I actually don't compare myself with anybody. So for everybody listening, what do you really want to do? Right? Is it, wait, well, I saw this guy on the internet and he's doing this now, so I got to do that. Because when you go down that one, that path, usually that ends up really unhappy and in a place you didn't want to be because you're trying to be somebody else. So, so again, everybody's measure and what they will define success as. You're saying it currency. I would say success. That's up to you, and don't let anybody else decide that for you. And man, that might be the most important thing we say, or a real soul searching thing. Because here's another part. You ready? Most of the people that I've met that own fitness businesses shouldn't own fitness businesses. Most of them should be an incredible coach or trainer somewhere helping more people than trying into a space that they don't really understand and don't have an acumen for. So I'm going to say this one. This is a bold one for everybody listening. Most people are not entrepreneurs. Here's the other part. You ready? I'm going to say it. This is crazy. I'm not an entrepreneur. If you ask me, hey, Martin, are you an entrepreneur? I'll be like, wait, just do businesses for the sake of business and love risk and take any challenge. And no, that's not me, man. I'm very calculated and I'm a technician and I'm really good at like certain things that I do. And yes, I could still own a business, but I am not an entrepreneur and I lack many areas of entrepreneurial spirit, but that doesn't mean I can't still be successful. So, but why does everybody call themselves an entrepreneur? Because I don't know, there's like this mystique or sexiness to the word.
Ooh, guys, you're an entrepreneur.
Guys, you got to know who you are and really what you want to be, and it's okay, right? Yes. And
here's an example. Let's look at somebody like in social media and modern day media. You look at somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk. Somebody that's Gary V, somebody who says you got to grind, you got to get up at 4 a.m. or like the Wahlbergs or the Hart, all these different people who are like, get up, work out at 4 and then finish your day at midnight and, grind. Yeah. So some people see that as success, and don't get me wrong. It can be success. But then if I was to share with people, and I've done that on my podcast, that I wake up at 7 and I write, and then I take my kid to school, and then I go for a run in the woods, And then I come home, I have breakfast with my wife, my second breakfast, because I got up early. So I have my second breakfast, just me and my wife. And then I sit down on my computer, and now it's 11 o'clock in the morning. And by the way, I shut down at 3 to pick my son up from school and spend some time with him. And then I finish up my day at 4, change my clothes, and then I start cooking for my family. So then people go like, well, when are you working, Jay? And I'm like, well, hold on. I've created this world. This didn't happen by accident. I created this world, and I have weekends off to go and speak at Perform Better or do a TPI seminar or whatever. But I created a world that suits me.
Yeah.
So if I did Gary Vee, I would be dead right now. And if Gary Vee did my life, he'd be like itching to like, oh my God, I should be doing something right now. But this suits me at this stage of my life. So who's successful? We're both successful, but we both are hopefully doing what we want to do and what fulfills us.
Absolutely. And here's what I would say, because I do a pet peeve with the word grind. I wrote a couple notes because I was laughing about it. Hey guys, do you want to grind your teeth? No. Do you want to grind points? No. If you wanted to wear something down or destroy it, you would grind it, right? Like you would actually, grind something up. So it's a very, I believe, a negative word. And I get it. It's like, oh, rise and grind. I'm grinding. No, grind to me mean you're going so against the grain of something you don't want to do that you're just wearing yourself down for some badge of honor that some other person that's grinding is going to like high five you. So you got to decide. But here's what I would say too, and this is a bold statement. But most people aren't really grinding anyway. No. So I think we love to say that.
That's called inefficient. They're inefficient, basically.
Yeah. You're spinning your wheels, right? But here's what I would say: everything that you just said, you're working. And what I like to say is take action. I say action is the antidote. If you are just taking actions towards what you want to do, in particular the ones that you like to do, you're still working, but you're not wearing yourself down. You're actually like going least against the grain, which is going to keep yourself going, right?
Well, the question that people don't ask, and it could be the most important question they could ask when they're, kind of assessing my life, is they don't ask, well, what do you do for those 5 hours a day that you are working?
Yeah.
Because what I am doing is incredibly efficient. And if you're to see the workload that I can produce in 5 hours, it's more than most people can do in 10 hours.
Yeah,
so I can compress my work. It is extremely focused. It's 100% present. And I give it just like right now, this is part of that 5 hours. Well, guess what? It also allows me when the time is, and for you to write that book, you had to do that on time that was sacrificing other aspects of your life. When I go and work with an athlete at a tour event and I have to be away for 4 days, that also, just so you know, takes away 4 days, which is another 20 hours that I would apply. So then guess what? Because I have the freedom of time, when I get home, I can then take that 20 missed hours and apply it 1 week after and then get caught up. So you have to remember, you need to add space. You need those space areas so that you can then have some flexibility on both sides. And you do a wonderful job of that. I mean, you wrote a book and ran all your businesses and got your daughter off to school.
And hey, again, not to sugarcoat it with the grinding thing, but hey, you got to work. It was still work, but I enjoyed it. And it's funny. There's something here we're talking about, because you said something. See, think about an engine. If parts within the engine are grinding, the engine is going to be less efficient and eventually not work. But if areas have either, they're running smooth or they have the right distance, now you become more efficient, but you keep going, right? So maybe instead of grinding, it should be polishing, right? How am I doing the things that I want to be doing, but also doing them really well? And so again,
you're the king of analogies. So I see in a year from now, there's going to be a Perform Better presentation called.
There's going to be something there.
Yeah, never grind, polish your knob. No, that doesn't work. Don't grind your. There's going to be something there. I know.
Well, here's what I would say too. If every day is the grindstone, you're in the wrong business, man.
True.
You kind of hate what you do. If you I don't say got to go back to the grind. Got to go back to the grindstone. That's not even in my vocabulary, because that's not what it is.
It's
You know,
not a
it's
brand,
almost,
no.
yeah. So I think also, what are we saying there? It's also an approach. So maybe anybody listening, if you're trying to pride yourself on the grind, you're actually doing something you really don't like doing. You should listen to that. Right.
That's
Like,
true. That's
yeah.
true. Absolutely. I want to just get back to the book for a second, because again, these lessons are producing some of this conversation that we're having here. You really touch on mentorship and how, the older coach speaking to the young coach who used to be his student, and that mentorship. We would do it a disservice. We'd be doing a disservice if we didn't share some of the mentors that led you to some of these lessons. I just did the meeting of the minds, the Perform Better meeting of the minds. And guess who was in my group for speed and agility? It was one of your mentors, Bill Parisi. And he mentioned you. He said that, to be a great communicator, to be a great coach, you have to be a great communicator. And he goes, we don't just let that happen by accident. He goes, one of my, people who came through my system, being Martin Rooney, is one of the greatest storytellers you're ever going to meet. And that's not by accident. He works at it. And so maybe we could share a story or two of maybe some of the mentors that led you to some of the lessons that you've put into this book.
Absolutely. Well, hey, first one, and without a doubt, Bill is huge in there, and I'll end with him because that was more the end of the journey. But, and currently now, like, he's still my best friend. And, guys, everybody's got to check out our work. And remember, even though I'm wearing a Training for Warriors shirt, the Parisi Speed School was, over 15 years of my life. And we affected a million kids and all the pros and everything else that we did in that. It was an incredible, incredible time. But, hey, my first coach, and this is interesting, not everybody knows this, was my mom. So my mom was a physical education teacher and, and was a coach. I was raised, you get 8 hours of sleep, you have breakfast every day, you're going to keep your body strong, you're going to keep your mind strong. Like, that was the culture that I was raised in. And, and that hard work, she raised me with it's funny, you see this book Mindset now, and it's by Carol Dweck, and it's like, oh, wow, don't tell them they're good, tell them about their effort. And that's how my mom raised me. She go, actually it was the opposite. She would say, you're not that smart. You got to work really hard. She's like, you're not that fast. You better run really hard. That's how we are, and using that we idea. That's how we are in this house. We're going to outwork people. We're going to do stuff.
We are these beings. This is what we believe in. And this is how we act.
This is how this is what we stand for. This is how we act. So I want everybody to know that it's not like, it's kind of funny. Like, I don't have that story like, oh, I never did anything, and in my 30s I found fitness because I was out of shape. No, like, I was raised hard by a mom that was really tough. And you know what? And that's a good story too. In 7th grade, a track and field coach found me. He is the guy I based and dedicated the first book to. He's kind of that old coach. And he found me. I didn't make baseball tryouts, and he was standing outside the door, and he said, hey, kid, I think you look perfect for track, man. And I didn't even know what it was, but the guy was so enthusiastic, I wanted to be part of it. And, 5 years later, I got a scholarship to college. The guy changed my life, so he was the guy that said, you can do these things. Here's what you can aspire to. You got to eat better. You got to sleep better. So all the stuff that my mom put in the framework, he refined, he made better, and we're still in touch. You know what's really cool? 2 days ago, I hung a card from him on my refrigerator, and it's to my daughter, him saying, him giving her a graduation gift and saying, hey, good luck at Notre Dame. And you know what? When she was born, he said, hey, man, you got to do this, this, and this with her, and she'll do something great. And it all worked. It's crazy. It all worked out. But after that, I went to college and then to the Medical University of South Carolina. Eventually I was on the U.S. bobsled team. But here's where the plot thickens. A lot through those spans, I didn't have good coaches. Like, it seemed that every layer and level.
That's a lesson too. Absolutely.
Yeah, that I aspired to higher, it got worse. And I just got beat down and broke down. And it was toxic cultures and political movements, and it was just so many things were a nightmare. So it's kind of like I had the tale of two coaches, right? I had the ones very early that inspired me that I wanted to be a coach, and then the ones that showed me the power of when you don't have the coach you want, right? But like, which one do you want to be? And it's interesting. I became a physical therapist, and the culture was so great there, and I loved the guys I worked with, that even though I knew it wasn't where I wanted to be, I stayed for years because I loved those guys. So that's the power of a culture too. And I loved what I was doing, and I helped people, but I knew there was more. I wanted to be, I don't know. I saw it. I wanted to be in front of people. I wanted to be helping more people. I wanted to do something bigger. And here's what's crazy. I got on planes and I started going to course after course about sports performance. And this is in the mid 90s. It doesn't even exist yet, you know?
And by the way, those were boring. They were horrible. Like back in the day, these kind of,
well, there was no internet yet. You couldn't get your hands on books. No. You could only go see people. And here's what's crazy. You ready? On one of those planes going to a place called Tyler, Texas, I sat next to Bill Parisi on the plane, and we were going to the same course. Now, we had met in high school because we were both javelin throwers. And but by the end of that trip, he was so passionate and so on fire. And he was like, you got to do this with me. I was like, I came back and I quit my job. Everybody thought I was nuts, including my parents. They said, you've done all these years of education and you're a therapist. You're going to wait. This guy has a van and you guys are going to drive around and like try to get people faster. Are you out of your mind? And you know what? I moved into this dude's basement. I didn't know. And, but it was the greatest move I ever made in my life. And Bill, and that's why I'm saying it now, he took the things to the next level. I had this passion. I knew what I wanted to do, but man, talk about business savvy. And hey, you want to know who an entrepreneur is? He is the definition of it. Everybody, you want to learn about entrepreneurial spirit, go hang out with that guy. But it was his enthusiasm, his willingness to learn, his willingness to take risks and to do whatever it took. That guy did it. And not only did he inspire me, but he created that platform that we were able to springboard off of and make into a global, brand. And it was the greatest times of my life. And so I would say those would be like the three that eventually led me to there. Now there's, a handful more.
Of course. You know what? If you miss one, they're going to be pissed. So,
yeah.
But here's another one that a lot of people overlook. And when we talk about mentors, we always think of somebody older than us. But I had many mentors, and I think when I say this, you probably agree that they're mentors of yours as well. But when I first started, I haven't been doing Perform Better as long as you. I've been doing it for about 10 years. And so I was already a fan. I was a fan of you. I was a fan of Todd Durkin. I was a fan of Mike Boyle, and Greg Cook. And as soon as I started like that, like Chris brought me in and he's like, we want you to be one of these speakers. And I was like, okay. And I was trying to figure out how to do it. And I called Gray, and Gray, I said to him, I'm like, I'm going to do my first Perform Better ever. And I really don't know the hands-on, like, how do I do it? And he gave me some advice, which you might find interesting. He said to me, he goes, you can either be the Martin Rooney, Todd Durkin guy who like just gets everybody fired up and like absolutely revved up in the whole room. The ceiling is coming off. The room is shaking. Or you can be like myself and Greg Rose and Mike Boyle and be a little bit like just educate, be a little bit softer spoken, but really deliver like deliverables. And he goes, but you can't be both. And I was like, well, but I like to motivate people. And he's like, okay, then be that guy. And I go, but I also like to educate people. He goes, well, then be that guy, but you can't be both. And I struggled with this. To be honest, he was wrong. You can be both because
I would agree because
my very first Perform Better.
Yeah.
My very first Perform Better, I'm doing my hands on. And, when the athletes are starting to do their exercise, you have that kind of moment where you can, you're off mic basically, and everybody's doing their thing. And I was so excited. Todd Durkin came over and he put his arm around me and he just goes, you and I, we're the same. I like this. And I was like, oh, am I doing it? Like I'm really doing this. And he's like he was just kind of going, of course you are. Like, this is what we do. And it just validated that I could just be me, which was somebody who motivates, but also educates. And you educate too, of course. But I don't know why there was that distinction, but I felt like I couldn't be in both camps. And then I realized the only way I could truly be me is if I have the passion that I have, and then add the comedy, which is just in my soul, and then share what I believe. And when I did that, that's when I had success.
Well,
And you do that every day.
That's your authentic self. I think my advice would have been, you got to be you.
Yeah.
That's what I usually say to people when they're about to talk. I say, go be you. Like, you know how to be you. And, but I get what he's saying from that, because, you know, from the outside, when you hear my stuff or Todd's stuff, it sounds like a rock show.
It is a rock show.
But at the same time, I believe you got to deliver something, because rah will only go so far. And hey, if I couldn't, I wouldn't have been able to write these books, if, you know, fill the book. But I will say this, all the years with Gray, and hey, Mike Boyle has given me so much great advice over the years, like almost like life advice or different things that everybody has their style. And that's what makes a Perform Better event so great. You know, think about it. If everybody was like you, me, and Todd, then it would be overwhelming. And if everybody was just like, say, Mike, then maybe it would be so technical. But to have that mix, we go kind of right and left brain on them during a weekend. That's it gives something for everybody. But for everybody listening, if you do want to present the take home messages, who do you want to be? Right? Like, so who do you want to be? And go be the best you can be. Don't go try to be somebody else.
And hopefully who you want to be is you, because if you don't have the energy, then don't be the energy guy. And if you don't have the technical stuff, then don't get technical. You really got to be yourself. And I found that through doing my stand-up comedy. I was always trying to, I always felt like I had to be a character of some sort. Like I was like, I'll be this vulnerable guy who comes, then I'm like, no, I'm this overly cocky guy, or I'm this and then I never had success until I was just like, oh, I'm just going to be. Yeah. And because the reason why you do what you do is because you're like, you don't get to perform better because you suck. It's because when you were being you, it was enough.
Got noticed. Yeah.
It was enough.
And how I would say it, even me beyond the, like, you know, because in the hands-on, I'm going to fire people up. But notice what I do. What do I do at the beginning? I tell a story. What do I do at the end? I tell a story. Always. What do I do during my stuff? I tell stories to get my points across. And you know what? It's not a coincidence. What did I do? I just wrote 400, actually, I think it's almost 500 pages between the two books of its stories within the story, still teaching. So that's who I am. Like Bill said, I'm a storyteller, man. Like that's what I don't know. It's kind of what who I gravitated towards, or, you know, what I wanted to be. So, and you know what? And when you're being you, that's when you're at your best. So definitely everybody listening, you gotta figure out who that authentic you is, and then go show it out. Right. And also, but it takes time to do that.
Mentorship can also be strange, where I've had people who've attended my mentorship and graduated from my coach class mentorship. And then a couple of years later, like they're executing at such a high level. Guess what? They became my mentor. Like I have a mentor who came to my podcast or to my mentorship because he wanted to be an author, and he wanted to author books on golf and like the whole holistic element of golf. And he wrote 4 books, and now he's one of my mentors, just like you are, in helping me deliver my first book. So it's like,
and remember if I were really to define the word mentor, I look at it as it's someone that has done something you want to be doing, that they're a little ahead of you down the path in a certain area. But and not only that, but anybody, again, if it's going to be learning something or getting a lesson, man, from my kids or, a lot of the people that I've worked with, I think it's more, if your antenna is always up and you're always open to learning. So it's more, actually, here would be a great thing, never thinking of it before. Nobody can be your mentor if you don't consider yourself a student. You know what I mean? Like, so if you don't put yourself in the position of you are a student, you cannot be mentored. So if you're always ready to learn and you're kind of a student of life, the mentors will appear everywhere. And that's why I was saying, like, if you look in the back of High 10, there's a lot of names in there, man. And and I always, you're going to always leave somebody out when you try to, list everybody, especially as you get older. But definitely, anybody could be your mentor right in the moment. It doesn't mean you got to spend 10 years with them out in a cave, or something like that.
Well, it's funny that you say that about being a student, because I'm always surprised when I go to a Perform Better Summit. I sit and I watch. I listen to the lectures. I go to the hands-on, and I always have some participant will come by, sit beside me. Hey, coach, is it okay if I sit with you? I'm like, of course, why not? They sit beside me and they go, so what are you doing here? And I go, what do you mean? What am I doing here? I'm learning and I'm taking notes. And they're like, it seems weird to them. And then when you were doing your meeting of the minds, like I asked a few questions and people are like, whoa, Jason's here. It's like, well, why wouldn't I be here?
Yeah,
why wouldn't I be? I want to learn.
Did anybody say that? Because remember I shouted you out. I was like, we were just on the phone.
Yeah, I know. But it's like, why wouldn't I be there?
Yeah.
Because these are people that I respect and these are people that I want to learn from, and they're speaking.
And you want to get better.
Yes.
And, you know what's funny? All the events, even the non-Perform Better ones, the ones that I've gotten to go to, man, I always go to listen to everybody. Like these are people we get to go and not have to pay to do it. So yeah, I never waste an opportunity for that. And some of the biggest ideas I've ever got have been through doing that kind of stuff too. So yeah, absolutely. Guys, the minute you stop learning or you think you know it all, like that's when you should really watch out. Because if you're too big to learn from somebody else or admit that you don't know everything, then man, that's a problem right off the bat.
Well, I'll tell you what, Martin, I think that we've accomplished what we need to do today, which is allow people to have a little glimpse as to the kind of communication that you can have when two minds get together that are passionate about what they believe in, and they're open and humble enough to seek each other's companionship and also knowledge and learn from each other. And then for you to be able to deliver this book to me, which is like already changing the way I'm running my business, because I saw a lot of holes in what I was doing in my culture. And you're enhancing that. What I would like to do is make sure that everybody gets High 10. You got to get it. Just go on to Amazon. It's probably the best place to get that. Would that be the place? Yeah. Simplest.
Amazon, it's there. And hey, it was my pleasure today. And guys, if anybody liked this and you did, hey, tell Jason about it so he brings me on again, because we were only just scratching.
Absolutely, we were.
There are so many things that we could cover. And definitely, if anybody has any questions, send them into Jason and we'll hit them too, because this was only enjoyable. That's the thing. Hey, you know what I wasn't doing? I wasn't grinding during that. And now I'm even looking, I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be a good one too. Guys, if there are things you spend your time on and time seems to rip by, that's an indicator of stuff you like doing, and you should do more of that. And that's just what happened there, where I thought, what were we doing? Like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And now I just looked and wow, that was longer than that.
So here's what I want to do. I want to make sure I get you back on the show before the trilogy comes out, the third edition. And the way you write, it could be out in 6 months, but
don't push me.
No. I want to thank you though for all the advice you've given me, helping me along the road, and what's been really nice is through our conversations, I really feel like I've got a new friend. And whenever you want to set up that time for you, me, Todd Durkin, and Cosgrove to go in, and we can't do it during the summer because there's a high fire hazard, and the sparks and the energy that would come out of that. That get together would be.
It's going to happen, and people are going to want to be a fly on the wall for that.
That would be an amazing group podcast. So until next time, we always finish with dream big, over deliver, be undeniable. You've done all those things in that book. So I just want people to go out and buy it. High 10, Martin Rooney. Make sure you get it. Go on to Amazon. And until we speak next time, my friend, cheers.
Welcome to the next level.